Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. It feels like I've been on vacation, but I have, from my own mind, I have been kind of skating a little bit. I took the semester off, as you all know. I don't know if anybody else knows, but now you do. I'm concentrating on taking care of some health stuff and feeling better, and also I have a lot of sick time that I need to use up. So
yeah, use it or lose it, right?
Well, no, they use it or it gets converted into pension hours when you retire. But the return on investment is like, nah.
Yeah, time is worth more anyway.
But HR, man, let me tell you, the HR thing I've been really easy on, right? This whole 23 years.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I got to use it, and they're like, what that happened was I went to make sure if I got everything done, because I didn't know I was supposed to do anything. And they said, well, you don't have an assignment. You're on unpaid sick leave. I'm like, on unpaid sick leave? Oh, no, I think there's a problem. And I go, well, what's the difference between medical leave and sick time? What's the difference? Because family medical leave, you get 12 weeks, my union says, of paid, whether you're to take care of a parent or something. But if your own illness is sickness, why is that not sick time? They were like, well, that's usually used for when you have a cold or something and you call in for the day. And I'm like, call in for the day? When was the last time a faculty member called in for a day after they canceled their classes? Said, I took a sick day. So anyway, but we're back on track. Things are good. I'm going to start the next round of shit on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. But,
have you been painting at all?
Yes, I have. Yeah? Yes, I have. My two dear friends from high school came down, just left today to go back to Los Angeles. I made a painting for each one of them. Brian, yours is next in the queue. I actually have the canvas out and unwrapped, so we're getting closer with your yellows, right? But you were gonna,
definitely.
I think the smaller one's better.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I'm on a binge page.
I'm gonna put it right here, right next to me.
Next to the other fake things?
Yeah, this one's gonna be real though.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Paige, you are lucky number 17 episode. Welcome to the podcast and the video cast and whatever else we call this. My dear friend, another Satter, another legacy here in San Diego. And Paige, amazing, and we have known each other for a really long time too. And you have had quite a journey yourself. Whereas, we had your mom on as a guest just last week, and, she was production manager, Civic Theater, right? And kind of
for 41 years.
Yeah. And then you have done you kind of reinvented yourself a lot, which we talk a lot about this, and that ability to do that. So welcome to our airwaves. It's nice to have you.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So tell us now how Brian, hello.
Hey.
I don't mean to
No, please.
So Paige, how you are born into a family of show business.
I am.
I'm assuming. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm the only one of the 5 siblings who went into this crazy field. Yeah. All of my siblings have very normal jobs, and but yeah, so I've always performed. I've always loved the arts. In high school, actually, I was playing musical instruments at the elementary school level, of course.
Wow.
And then I was a really bad clarinet player, horrible. And I got to high school, and Mr. Almanza, my band director at Helix High School, home of the Fighting Highlanders, said, "Try this," and he gave me a tuba. For which my mother, she just bought a bigger car. So,
that is a supportive mother. She's the kid coming home with a tuba and like, fuck, man.
She did.
Couldn't you play the flute? How come somebody? God damn it.
Yeah. I didn't really. I don't love high pitches, and this. I had the embouchure for it. I had the. Strength for it. I had, and I love playing in ensembles. So I was never really, I was good enough, and I played in high school. And then when I went to college, part of my degree included a performance, and you had to do something. And I never wanted to act ever. So I was able to play in the wind ensemble for the 3 or so years.
With the tuba.
Yeah.
In a
Well,
wind ensemble. That's what confused me because I always thought the
oh
winds
no.
were the clarinet, the oboe,
Well,
the
very,
bassoon.
very, very good point. There's lots of names. It could be called symphonic band. It can be called wind ensemble, since most instruments you blow into, regardless what the instrument is made of. So there's an orchestra
What about
traditionally.
brass though? Isn't a tuba considered a part of the brass
Very
section?
much. It's a low brass
Oh,
family, but you
gotcha.
still
Yeah.
blow into it.
Yeah.
There's still air involved. And
Yeah.
so an orchestra, a standard orchestra, and of course there's plenty kinds of, there's string quartets and there's chamber orchestras, but a typical orchestra has both strings and wind instruments, winds and brass and percussion and piano and all that good stuff. But then if you just have, a lot of this is found on college campuses, you have a wind ensemble or a symphonic band. At San Diego State, they had both. The symphonic band was the sort of community, lower level ensemble, and then the more serious of the two was the wind ensemble, and that was college level music majors. There was music, there's a ton of music written for non-string ensembles.
Yeah.
And so that's what that is. So yeah, so I played music in college in addition to all the other things we'll talk about, and then I stopped because I never did own my own horn. I was just owned a mouthpiece, and it kind of did the job I wanted it to do. You know, I appreciate, I admire musicians, I admire orchestral musicians. Not everyone wants to stand in front and have a spotlight on them, and that's what's so great about orchestras. It's 82 people playing together.
Yeah.
With blend and balance, and
somebody could really phone it in. I always thought about this. If there's like 12 violin players and one is just not really into it that night and just kind of like
you
could
now
like
in the professional orchestra world, all the musicians are part of a union, and everyone is on contract, and you need to be up. You need to come prepared. You need to, and if you're slacking, then your job is in jeopardy.
It's kind of like freelancing almost in a way, isn't it? I mean, it is, but it's not.
Well, the Mainly Mozart Festival that I do in June for Mainly Mozart, that's all brought in orchestra, like first principal chairs from like 9 or 10 different orchestras.
Right. That's like a big pickup orchestra. Yeah. And it's made up of all the concertmasters.
Boston, folks from Boston.
No, everyone. It's a really great, but it is sort of like, I joke that it's like a summer camp program.
It is like
in a good way, and people look forward to it. Why wouldn't you want to come to
it's a great gig.
our city in summer? But orchestral work is very I have very strong opinions. It's it's very serious work, and there are certain clauses in an orchestral person's contract about fatigue and how long you can play without a break. And I watched a rehearsal the other day. They were doing a symphony, and it's 42 minutes long. And imagine doing something and paying attention, because if you space out, where were you in the music, right? We are music based, nothing is memorized. And so it's a fatigue both on your body and on your mind. So I have a huge appreciation for players.
Yeah, we do these film to scores at my performing arts center. And we do multiple. We just did Jurassic Park, and we did Harry Potter series, and
we did those.
Those are really, like you said, they're really long. And they do a rehearsal, and it's like a dress rehearsal, and they do the whole first half, and it's like an hour and a half of music, and there's no breaks. They play straight through, and like you're saying, it is very fatiguing. I can imagine, just mentally, to have that attention the whole time.
Well, and then not look over at the screen, which is a big deal. We do a lot of movies at the San Diego Symphony. In fact, in March, we're doing The Princess Bride, which is always really fun. We're going to do it outdoor really cool. at the Shell.
Yeah. I remember last time we built the IMAX screen for the premiere of the Star Trek movie. They came down from Hollywood and they did the red carpet thing down at Embarcadero.
That was a big deal.
J.J. Abrams was the director. It was the one where one of the actors, I guess, had gotten hit by his own car or something before the movie came out and was killed. Something freaky accident, yeah. But I have a picture of that in my textbook, The Production Manager's Toolkit, brought to you by Routledge Press.
Volume 2.
There's a picture of that sunrise and the orchestra played to that, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I love doing movies.
That's why when you first get the union book, 2.5 hour service, because everybody's like, what do you mean they only have to work 2.5 hours? Yeah, well, you do this for 2.5 hours, man. It hurts.
Oh yeah, it's not just one. For every we call it Masterworks series. For every performance, those get 5 rehearsals, 5 solid rehearsals. But for the films, and when we're outdoor and it's our popular programming, you're lucky if you get 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So
do you still do the silent movies? Do you still do the silent movies with the organ inside Symphony Hall?
No, but it doesn't mean we won't. So Jacobs Music Center, which is the home of the San Diego Symphony, just went through a 4-year, $125 million renovation, primarily acoustic, right? It's a movie theater from the 1920s. And so
paid for by the Jacobs for the most part, right?
No.
It's just named after them.
Correct. I mean, if you give a leading gift, that usually anyone who does any kind of capital campaign, that's why you go into any.
What was the budget?
Even Brian at your Performing Arts Center, there's probably names for everything.
Oh yeah, they're all over the building.
Yeah,
everything. I mean, like storage closets. I mean,
exactly
everything.
Yeah, the Rady Shell, Mr. Rady of Rady's Children's Hospital, a very prominent, lovely local family. He gives to San Diego State. He gave the leading gift. So you don't have to pay for the whole thing. Right. It's just a leading gift. But shoot, what was the question?
What's the budget to redo a 1922 movie theater into an acoustically perfect?
About the movies.
125 million. That's a lot. Well,
that's
money.
That's what, and we're still
fundraising.
We've been open since October, but with any big project. So that was 125. The shell was the working budget was 85 million. But when we did have to clear out the hall in order for the renovation, those 2 the carbon arc movie projectors were not required. And so I called up to many people up in LA, like at the Egyptian and all these old movie houses, and they put me in touch with a guy who loves old movie theater equipment, and it was going to a good home. So he and his team came down, and those were heavy, and they had to carry them down the stairs. It was just, these are serious projectors, and there's 2 of them. So they went to a very good home, but we did not keep them. The organ, of course, is in the venue, and it got expanded. So now, I hate to say this, you can get a DVD, which is even old technology. You can get a digital format of a film and play it with the organ. But I hope it comes back. It's just our first year after the renovation. So
yeah.
Now tell us, Brian, do you have a question? Sorry, I don't mean to.
I was just curious, how many. That's obviously phase 1. Are there multiple phases to that project?
Phase 1 was a big one. Actually, during the pandemic.
That was the 85 million?
That budget? Was the shell.
Oh, that was the shell. Okay.
The San Diego Symphony owns and operates 3 venues, 2 concert halls, and a warehouse. So we have an indoor concert hall, which is the Jacobs Music Center. We have an outdoor concert venue, which is the Rady Shell at Jacobs Park on the San Diego Bay. And we have a 14,000 or so square foot warehouse, because where do you put all your stuff from seriously. 2 concert venues? And that
all those chairs and music stands.
We have 6,200 red chairs. We have 500 tables. Big. And also we have production storage needs, and we have, there's just stuff. And so when we opened the shell, we were able to also purchase a warehouse, which is good too. So we're pretty busy with the 3 venues up and running, and so we had the pandemic. After we were all sent home in March of 2020, our CEO, Martha Gilmer, who I have such high admiration for, she said, and they knew that there was a renovation in the works. She's like, now's the time. And so it happened in stages. The first big stage is our building is on a hill in between A and B streets, and in between 8th and 7th streets. And so on this hill, 35-degree hill or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's steep.
Load-ins are hilarious. It's like one day I'm going to watch that piano fly down the hill. But there at the top of the hill is a hotel. At the bottom of the hill is a office tower, and we are in the middle of the hill. So we own our middle third of that building. And so I lost my train of thought.
It got built around it. When the hotel was built, there's actually like a 4-inch gap in between, right? Sure. Like it's nothing touches.
Oh yeah. The walls crazy. Do not touch. There's exactly. So sorry, the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. So the first phase was our HVAC system was actually below the stage. It made noise. It rumbled. The first part of that was moving all the building mechanicals above the stage. So above our concert hall, we own the air above it. Well, the office tower has a parking structure. So we lease our air to this parking structure.
Oh my God.
So we moved all the building maintenance systems.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy.
Lease your
it's
air
so crazy. I know. It's a nice revenue stream, but still.
What's that contract look like?
So we moved all that sort of HVAC and building mechanicals to above the stage under the parking lot. That reduced the sound immensely. That was just phase one. And then we started like ripping out seats it was huge. We had a rock star acoustician who came in and that was his job, is what can I hear? I remember standing in the upper lobby men's restroom, a place I usually don't hang out. And we were flushing toilets to see what you could hear on the inside in the concert venue.
Yeah.
It was, and everything got.
But then how do you go about solving that problem? Like, is it like more layers, or is it like materials you put on the wall, or is it just restructuring things? Like, that's such a, I don't know, like, how do you dampen that noise?
Well, I think it depends on what the problem is. So if it could be done with a different sort of hardware, those
silent
walls.
Toilet flusher.
Yeah, silent
exactly.
Toilet.
I mean, you
waterless.
Could look at, a lot. The last renovation was done in the 90s or something, and so a lot of technology is new.
Yeah.
So it was just pretty funny, but everything that made a noise, and even they pulled the seats. And then they replaced them. So the angling was a little different to use that. The fabric on the seat, of course, there's a lot of sound clouds. There's you name it, but it was acoustic, and you listen to a concert now, and it's like it's a whole new orchestra.
And do you still have that? Does that overhang from the balcony and the mezzanine still go all the way till like the 11th row? And then there's that underneath. The first level, the orchestra level, is underneath a ceiling.
Correct. Yes. So there is an upper level and a lower level.
Wow.
Actually, correct, but not really. So we removed the last 8 rows of the orchestra under that overhang. And by pulling those, we repurposed that space. It is now the booth. It's a recording studio. We never had a recording studio before. Yeah. It's a catering office, like a catering kitchen. It's a house manager's office. The library that used to live kind of in the lobby is now Backstage. Even Backstage, they came in and found 15,000 square feet of air. And now Backstage, that used to be the fly rail, the whole fly space, which is now all automated, are 5 layers of offices. 5 floors of offices. Yeah.
Wow.
So super creative. And
it's cool.
We have 2 office towers. It's pretty wild.
Get a tour.
For sure. I will next time I'm there.
Yeah, I bet.
When we all came back, they're like, this is a much bigger building. We're spending a lot more on janitorial service now.
Oh, I bet. Hey, Paige, let me ask you this. So, but your background really was in production, kind of stage management, like in that area, and then you came into facilities, right? But at the art museum, you were still. I mean, there was some crossover. So all of these skills that you acquired along the way are just super transferable. Thank you.
Exactly. Well, and that's when talking about like my mother, who is at her job. I mean, she moved up through the ranks, but she had this in the same building for 4 decades. I didn't sit still. I took whatever opportunity came at me, and so in college, I I thought I was going to be a business major. And after the first year, I was so bored. And then I went to theater, and I was quickly moved into a stage management position. My spring quarter, I stage managed Tartuffe. I had never stage managed before, but I'm pretty organized. That was my first show.
Oh, wow.
And this is at San Bernardino?
Cal State San Bernardino, yeah.
Cal State San Bernardino, yeah.
And so, I called my first show there. Very understanding director. You know, anyone who works on a college campus has a ton of patience. And then from there, while I was there, I realized I liked it, and I was going to change to theater. But then I thought, what do I do if I can't get a job? Right? I was a bit practical. It is a niche market, right? And so, luckily, I found a woman, Margaret Perry, who everyone knew from San Diego and who was at Cal State San Bernardino in the theater department. And she took me under her wing. She knew my mother, so that was a nice bridge. And she said, one other person had done this special major. And I said, what are you speaking of? And she said, you can write your own major. We don't have a performing arts management major, but you could write your own. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I did a little bit of legwork, and I was able to, at the end of the day, write my own plan. And so I took the business courses, which I was at that time okay in. The performance angle of it is I played in the band. And then I was kind of the primary stage manager, for what that's worth, at a college level. And I mean, my senior year, we won the National Playwright Award through ACTF and performed at the Kennedy Center, which was so rad, right?
That's awesome.
And so to call a show at the Kennedy Center is not too
Hell
bad.
Yeah,
right. And then I left with this diploma that actually says special major. It doesn't even say what it is. It's never even left the envelope, and that was a very long time ago. So
that's funny. How did the business courses? Did the traditional business courses help you? Because the business of entertainment is much different.
I'm gonna say absolutely not. It was the early 90s, and the whole idea of an arts management program was still. I think most people that got
that probably wasn't even a term that was used back then.
I don't think so.
No,
I would think most people who make it into what is now a thriving industry just kind of went, well, I used to do that, and I can figure out how to do that, and it was kind of man-made.
Bill Burns.
I mean, I think if I were to look at a curriculum for like a master's, I think it would be really hard. Even the bachelor's degrees, and they're all over the place now, right?
But well, we're actually having that conversation.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
At this very minute.
Yeah, my friend I worked with at the symphony, she got her master's in business administration from Carnegie Mellon, which is a big one. American
in person
University.
Or online?
In person. This was years ago. Then when I was looking, there was like American University and there was Carnegie Mellon, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Now it's all different. But I would think
now it's online. You can get your MBA online.
You can do anything. But I think what you need to know, it's not like a regular, like a MBA. It evolves because now we're nonprofit management. I went and got a certificate in just because that's a confusing thing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
and
I think
a totally different structure than other types of producing, for sure.
Yeah, when I did that, I was in there with hospitals. I was in there with social services. I was in there with the zoo. Someone had sent someone from the zoo. Exactly. So if I were to go back, I don't know how I would do it at the time. For me and what I knew, it was fine. And really, what I learned was on the job. It was not in the classroom.
Right.
And from after college, I've taken all these opportunities that just sort of presented themselves. And as a result, I changed jobs every 3-4 years. And so I have a really nice, deep resume. And what I really like about my resume is, as much as I love music, I went in and out of it. So I never really did.
Yeah. Give us the, those different things that you've done over the since then.
Well, and so when I was at the Kennedy Center, in that April of 1992 with the American College Theater Festival, well, I fell for the sound guy. And so he was moving to Seattle, and I'm like, I'm going to move to Seattle because I like you. So I moved to Seattle, and so foolish. I wish I could talk to my 22-year-old self now. But I went over there, and I didn't have a job. And in the newspaper, remember those, there was a job section.
Classifieds, baby.
It was so long ago. And Seattle Opera was looking for a subscription representative. So there was a single ticket office and a subscription office. And so I applied, and I got it. And I was there a couple years. And then there was this opening in the education department that a friend of mine recommended me for. And it was what we would call now a production coordinator or production manager. At that time, it was called education programs coordinator. And the education department, we did everything. We did pre-concert lectures. We did the opera recitals in the shopping malls. We did symposia. We did like bookstore conversations. We did about 200 events a year. That's kind of my thing. I'm a 200 events a year kind of person. And I was there for about 5 years total, 2 in ticketing, 3 for education-ish. And then one day I realized I missed being a sister. I missed being a daughter, and I, was making nothing, and the boy thing didn't work out. So I moved back home, and then there was another ticket job open at La Jolla Music Society, which was then called La Jolla Chamber Music Society. So I got that, and then a production job opened up, and then I moved into the production department, and I did that, and then there was this other opening opportunity at the chamber orchestra, and so I went to work with them, and then while I was there was an opportunity to work at the art museum, which is one of my favorite jobs, and they.
What was that title? What was the title of that job that they were looking for?
That when I started, it was a public programs assistant. So if you go to the art museum, they have the big show, right? We'll call it Andy Warhol. That's the big exhibition. And then there is the education department that builds events around that show to make it much more
like
interesting.
Outreach.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And so we did lectures, concerts, film, dance, and symposia, kind of 5 areas. I didn't know art from fart. I'll just tell you that right now. Did not really know the difference, but we all met in a room for each exhibit with these exhibition meetings, and we all ran around the table and described what our contribution to the show is. Museum store, what's yours? Security, what's yours? Curatorial, what's yours? Marketing, membership, education programs. So, for example, if we use the sample of Andy Warhol, there was a slew of lectures that took place. Then we did an outdoor film series, and we showed films of the artists that Andy Warhol painted, Marilyn Monroe, John Wayne, those kinds of things. It was such a creative job. Cool. It was so darn creative. And then we had a music series, and we can go in the galleries or in the recital hall. It was so fun. It was
so challenges and the unique challenges, because you used to come into my class and talk about, be careful about the decibels because you got $1 million painting on the wall.
Mm-hmm. And
no red wine, I think, was another rule.
Right,
no red wine.
Because of the flooring and anything else.
Yeah.
I was the assistant for a couple of years, and then I was able to move into, then turned into a one-person department. So I was the manager of this, and I was there for a good 5 years, and then some circumstances changed, and I went back to the chamber orchestra under a different conductor, and that was fine. That was fun. And then from there, I went to I decided to leave there after a while, and then there was a job at San Diego State, and they were looking for a school of music.
That's my fault.
That's all right. It was a school of music and dance.
That's all right.
Had
she says.
That's all right.
I help her get a job. Oh, that's all right. It sucked,
right.
but
you helped me a couple things.
I'll never get those 6 years back from my life.
So they were looking for someone to kind of coordinate the recital program, although it was called events coordinator.
Oh my God.
And they said, we're going to hire you for 3/4 time. And I said, that's fine. And I came in and there's a ton of work. And then they're like, well, the School of Theater across the street, actually across the way there, needs a box office manager. And we think you can do it in that remaining 25% of your time. Well, we all know what this means. I did 100% for the School of Music, and I did 50 to 75% for the School of Theater.
100% for the School of Theater.
So I was
wrote the emergency manual and rewrote the
So it was pretty fun. So on the music side, I would train the
nonprofit.
Or just I don't know. It's
educational
funny.
Bureaucracy.
I think because I came from the outside world, I brought in like these are some standards. You guys aren't really.
Yeah.
Some people are on campuses way too long. Like go outside, look around.
The loose touch of what the real world actually does. Yeah.
Again, it was a fantastic. I was there about 4 years, and then it was winter break, and it was winter break 2016, and I get this call from somebody at the symphony, and he said, and he's a friend of our family, and he said, I want you to come work to the symphony, and I said, no thanks, and he said, why? I said, because I've heard it's a really tough job. I'm happy at San Diego State. I'm fine. And then he called me again. I want you to come work at San Diego State. And I said, for the symphony. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. And he said, well, this person is looking for an assistant. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not really bred to be someone's assistant. And then I get this call from Jay, and he said, so this guy just called me and he said he wants him to convince me to take the job at the symphony. So I talked to Jay a little bit. I remember I was in my car. I was taking the car in for like an oil change or something. It was Christmas break, so I had the day off. And I remember Jay calling me. I'm like, isn't that interesting? So then I called back to the other guy, and then he says, well, actually, she's leaving, this person I was supposed to assist. And I said, okay, well, that's a different conversation. And as much as I love SDSU, I was a 2-income family at that time, so I could afford, but they don't pay anything, right? Zippity-doo-dah. And this job at the symphony paid substantially more. So between the, those things to think about. And then I was told, well, he said, try us out for a month, right? Try it for a month. I was given a project, like a project management, like side project. He says, try us out. If you like us, join us. If not, off you go. So I dated the symphony for a month, and it worked out okay. And the one person I was going to replace left. And so I just had my 8-year anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I went from a production manager position to I was moved up to a director of production because we were able to hire an assistant production manager. And then I was at for a while, about my first 4 years. And then when we built the Rady Shell at Jacobs Park, I was moved over there, and I felt something was changing. Something was changing. And I spoke to my boss at the time. I said, are there other positions within the organization? And I said, I don't want to leave the organization. I'm getting tired of production. The pandemic, it was tough. Any of us working in music, it's not the industry I started in. And it just felt like, I don't know, maybe I like small or something. I don't know, but it was not I wasn't feeling it. And I love classical music, and I love opera, and I love Broadway, and I love all that stuff. And I'm an excellent employee. But that pandemic did something to me. It just changed. The industry changed, and I didn't love it. How we operate in the industry. And so somehow a position opened up, and after I was told no, and then I was told yes. And so when we opened the shell in, I don't know, we'll call it August, in June, a couple of months before, I took the job of director of facilities. And I should tell you, I don't know plumbing or electrical. I called my dad one day. I'm like, can you tell me how this thing works? And he loved it.
I didn't either. I didn't either.
But I know, but you're at that point,
Figure it out.
I've been in the industry 30 years. You can kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
And they said, when they asked me to move, they said, we know that you can handle departments. And so you manage Backstage. We think you can manage the front of house too. So, I took it. And then about a year after that, maybe 2 years after that, we kind of configure things. And I was given additional responsibilities, mainly budgetary. So I'm now the budget manager for all of venue operations, which is a pretty big deal. And we were able to have someone else manage the facilities team. So I manage the manager now. And then I was moved to, it's a mouthful, Director of Operations Administration. So I oversee the facilities department still and janitorial, but I also am the administrator for the department. I'll tell you what I do not oversee. I do not oversee anything front of house, event crew, ushers, event setups, any of that stuff. That's not me. If something breaks, that's me.
Do you still go to the shows at night? Do you have to be a babysitter or anything, or one of the administrators on, actually go to a show at night?
Yes. Yeah. We have an indoor season and an outdoor. Yeah, it's true. Although it's added up because I still put in a 50-hour work week, and then you'd put shows on top of that. Yeah. And as I've gotten older, I get a little tired. But
amen, sister.
Oh my gosh! So this weekend, I'm talking to you today, and there's a concert going on that started about an hour ago, but there are people in place, and I'm available.
A matinee?
But yeah.
Oh, inside.
In fact, my mother's there. Oh yeah, we're indoors. So. For the most part, the Rady Shell is a rain or shine venue. And so for the most part, we're outdoors with our big, heavy summer programming. We'll call it June to September. And then we move indoor October to May. So for the most part, popular programming is in the summer. Our core programming, Masterworks, we also do jazz and Broadway and all that other good stuff. We go indoors. We have worked at the Shell when it's cold and rainy, and everyone thinks it's a beautiful day in San Diego, but we have jackets and beanies, and because when that wind comes off the bay and it's in the 30s, it's very cold.
Great.
But I love working shows. I still love working shows, even though I'm not really sure what my role is for shows. I still want to be there.
That's the best.
It's it's where I think I know. I mean,
you can be the mayor.
All of us have done this for so long. It's like, tell me what to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What a great round of just bouncing around.
Yeah.
Always, and never really seeking it necessarily. It just things just kind of happen,
Things, which is luckily, relationships.
Yeah,
as my friend Jay Sheehan says.
Oh my
and so I was able to move through. I remember I was interviewing for San Diego State, and I had taken this small job at a friend's her flower shop. So we were talking about, if you come to work for State, and I'm like, look, I've been a production manager forever and ever. This is something I can do. I said, there's mud under my nails because I just came from the flower shop. And at the very final interview, she says, is there anything that you want us to know about you? And I said, I can unjam any copier. Boom. Got the job. Yeah. Because you work in an office long enough,
That is the truth. In fact, I have one right next to me that it says it's a paper jam and there's no paper in it. There's no paper.
I will come over and fix it.
Oh my God. Oh man.
So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, I'll tell you, what a great a great journey so far.
Well, and you know what? It's just what makes sense to me. As I said, my siblings, it didn't make sense to them. It makes complete sense to me. And now I'm looking at retirement. So, because you have to think about that stuff. And I sit and I think to myself, do I have 15 more years in me? And I think I do. But then I think about, if I'm the age that my mom was when she retired, 15, 20 years from now, it's going to go quite quickly. And then what do you do with that? But it's my comfort level. 1 year, I worked out of the arts for 1 year in my career and I hated it. It was at a law firm. I loved the guy that brought me on, but everyone was angry and yelling, and it just was so tense. I'm like, take me back to the world of make-believe. I cannot be here.
It's interesting the way that things morph, because again, yes, the retirement thing, and I love to teach. So the natural progression that Brian's helping me with too is moving towards trying to teach online and work with universities. And this is where the question for Paige Satter is, I have been wondering why the rock and roll music touring industry has never been invited to the table of a performing arts management degree.
Arts
and
management.
I have asked arts management.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked to a couple people about it, and but you look at Bill Burns' book of 500 pages, there's not a word about it.
I think rock and roll is, I think it is on the job training. And you might start as a roadie, or you start as someone who sells tickets.
Yeah.
To me, that industry now today, it's massive, but it was always like, if you're going from gig to gig, you grab a lighting designer, you grab audio. It's gotten so much more complicated.
But in like venue operations, there's not a course being taught anywhere about how to run a concert
Front of
venue.
house, box office.
There just isn't, and we have discovered this.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, like, we could do a whole certificate in rock and roll management just on how to advance a show, how to write a writer, how to sell tickets, how to market. Like this, the crossover things are still the same.
Well, and it's also those legal. When you advance a show, you're advancing a contract. Yeah. And we've all been there where something isn't right, and they hold that contract in your face, and they're like, "You signed right here."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But a lot of it's the same. So anyway, we are advocating that it should be, that this industry, it's time.
I mean, there is, thank goodness for like IAVM, International Alliance of Venue Managers, right? I'm active with those guys, and there's a Performing Arts Center group, and that's what we talk about. We talk about rock and roll management because we're all doing it. We're all production managers turned operations managers.
But nobody's teaching it. That's
I know, it's a very good point. And arts management,
even in theater degrees and like masters, I got my master's in stage management at UCSD, and that wasn't ever part of curriculum talking about.
But yet Cal State Northridge
like either.
And like Cal State Northridge has a course in how to leverage your Broadway theater when in the off season, and not one word about contact a concert promoter to come in and do a show.
You know what?
And none of it. It's really interesting.
Now that you said that, I know at State they have the event management through the School of Hospitality.
Oh, yes.
And I wonder how many. I'd be curious. That event management, I think of like corporate events, weddings,
hotels. Yeah.
Exactly. Anything in a ballroom, kind of a thing. Because that's a thing. But maybe rock and roll just scares people.
Well, and yes, it does. And here's the other reason, because we did have a meeting with Boston University. I'm at my second, because they have 100% online course. I got through to the guy. He's like, you know what? You're right. We think maybe we do an entire certificate instead of putting one production management class in. We got, by the end of the conversation, it was like, because it's only 8 weeks, one night a week for 1 hour of pre-recorded.
We can name main topics without thinking about it.
We could do
100%.
Yes, exactly. And by the time he was done, he's like, well, yeah, this could really be its own certificate thing. So that's what we're headed towards. And I think that we have the marketing ability because of all of my friends, like all of you, who have these credentials that are, say, who the teacher's going to be.
That has a lot, if you think about TED Talks or Masterclass, people will gravitate. They're like, well, who's teaching me and what are their credentials?
Right.
So the minute you find someone like you who's been in it for 4 billion years.
Well, and then you have Larry Richter from John Bon Jovi. You have John Sanders, who's out with Sting. He's in Abu Dhabi right now or somewhere crazy today, actually.
Exactly. You get people who know what they're talking about.
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
I do Bobby. That sounds like fun, actually. I do
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, but so that's where I'm at right now, and I'm actually writing these other and Brian's trying to keep me on point, and I'm coming back to life now because what we talked about with Boston and also with Michelle Kay from Cincinnati Conservatory of Music, is that nobody goes from academia, the scholars who are teaching the arts management programs, then go into the music business and then come back to teach it. That just doesn't how it goes. But guess what? Folks like you and me and Brian who are working in the industry and then got into academics, now we are set in a position because we are the experts. Because DJ Hopkins is barely, you know what I mean? Like he's not going to learn about how to.
No, for sure. And that all gets back to, I think higher education needs people who have been on the outside and are now coming back. Because even when I went into, and I love that job, but even when I went into the just the school setting, I thought, well, there are better ways to do things, but how would you know that? Because you haven't worked in it.
Yeah,
I brought in my real life experience.
Perspective, yeah.
Exactly. It was still it's still an excellent program, but I thought there are more efficient ways to do things. Oh, yeah.
And sometimes they don't want to hear it though. Isn't that right, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hear
all
the
time.
efficiencies.
And not even, and even if they're open to hearing your point of view or a way to make it better, it has to go through 10 fucking layers of red tape to get even a maybe that we could possibly try it, you know, and then it's got to go down 10 layers and that, you know, just the complexity and, you know, what do you call it? The hierarchy is just, it makes everything so much more difficult.
Cumbersome, right? Just hard.
Well, maybe on the certificate side, it's not as cumbersome as it is for like a standard curriculum or, you know, who needs to sign off on it. So that maybe you get a little more flexibility if you do the certificate.
Yeah.
And what's great about a certificate too is you're done. It's not a 4-year. You're done.
Yeah, you don't need all the fluff.
However, no one's reading as much as I would love to read Pride and Prejudice. You know, you're not forced to take an English class just to get out of that program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take what you want to take.
No, both of my sisters did trade school. I was the one who did a 4-year. All are valid. Yeah. All are 100% valid.
Yeah, absolutely. True. It's going to be interesting. This is going to be an interesting way to the future because also I think lucrative financially and a good retirement thing for if it hits. Well,
and that's what, quite frankly, you know, everyone thinks the arts are all warm and shiny and fluffy and sweet, but it is. The San Diego Symphony is a multi-million dollar company. We're not all little sweet organizations that rely on bake sales.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need someone in that chair who knows how to run
exactly. And that's what John Sanders,
a corporation, essentially.
No question.
You're essentially running a corporation. Yeah.
Just because it's nonprofit doesn't make it less serious or, you know, everyone has to hug puppies the whole time you're in there.
That's right.
It is a serious business. We have 250 employees or whatever, or 500 volunteers. And it is a serious business model.
And at the same time, Taylor Swift had 150 truck drivers. You know what I mean? Like why is that not being the logistics of that shit is crazy.
Just that one position.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the smartest thing I think I did marketing wise with the Boston guy was bring John Sanders to the meeting with me as Sting's production manager who because he said, "Hey, Doug, I am the director of global touring for Live Nation. I interview people on a daily basis for jobs. They are not showing up. The people that we want to take our place, because Jay and I are leaving soon, and we have worked our ass off to make it, you know, so we want competent people to take our place. And you guys have he actually said, you guys have an obligation to start teaching them that. And that's what I think the guy was like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, so anyway, it looks like we're getting up against the clock, Brian. It's, but first I have my five quick questions. Sorry, Anthony Bellata. Paige Satter, what is your karaoke song?
Well, let's think. Do I have to sing it or can I have
someone sing it? You can just say it and we'll have 60 seconds on the clock.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Any big fat hairy ballad, I love to hear people sing poorly.
Big fat
Any like
hairy
I will
ballad.
always love you. Bring it on. Any Dolly Parton, bring it on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, 3 things in your dressing room if you were a rock star that you would absolutely must have.
Oh gosh.
Something consumable.
I love candy, so there'll be some kind of candy in there.
What kind of candy?
Really good towels. I like big fluffy towels.
Nice ones. That's
Turkish
a good one.
cotton.
That's a good one. And the other thing is, I heard my mom's response was like chicken or something, but I would also want, let's see, I have candy and I have big fluffy towels and maybe like a sound machine or something.
Oh.
Okay.
Kind of calm me down.
Before. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. When I work with Johnny Mathis, when I work with Johnny Mathis one time.
Oh, Johnny Mathis.
He's a delightful, one of the most nice people on the planet. I think his was the writer that we had to put in a DVD player because he liked to watch old movies before he went on stage.
That was back in the day.
Oh, he's I'd see him. He's touring. I looked at his schedule. He's still touring. He's just delightful.
Jet black hair still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to balance in looking at art, are you a equal balance or an asymmetrical balance person? What do you like?
Oh, I'm an equal balance.
Equal balance.
Meaning like looking at a portrait or looking at a painting. Yeah. I mean, I think I like in art as in life, I do appreciate balance.
Interesting. Are you a lead singer or a backup singer, Paige Satter?
I am definitely a backup singer, but a bossy one. I am a bossy backup singer.
You are Gladys Knight and the Pip. The lead Pip.
I would be like the lead backup singer. Like I like being number 2. I'm a solid number 2. Let someone else be number 1, but I'm a solid number 2.
Man, I'll tell you on the side note, if you haven't seen the making of We Are the World on Netflix,
that's really good.
Yeah.
That shit is gnarly about who's a backup singer and who's not.
Yeah. That was the one with Lionel Richie and it was really good.
And Cyndi Lauper gets all bitchy, like
exactly.
Waylon Jennings walks out, like Waylon's like, I don't know what they
How do you manage that many, personalities?
And you got the two blind guys. You got Ray Charles and you got Stevie Wonder like leading the group. It's awesome. Yeah. Okay, finishing up. You have an opportunity, Paige Satter, to do a TED Talk. What is your TED Talk about?
My TED Talk could be about giving yourself permission to take risks.
Nice.
Yeah, every job I've taken, I wasn't ready for. And I'll say that right now. I wouldn't tell the people I was interviewing with at the time, but every job I've taken, I was not ready for it. And by the time I left, I was the one writing the handbook. Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, every job I left. And I didn't know it showing up, but you give yourself a couple of years. That's why I'm not quite ready to leave the symphony yet. I'm sort of on like this new path and I can't write the manual yet. I know when it's time to leave if I can write the manual.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Kennedy quote that says something like, those who fail miserably achieve greatly, or something really awesome like that.
I 100%, you learn, Barbara Streisand once said, there are no mistakes, just lessons to be learned.
Mm. And, that is a great quote from Babs. And why don't we wrap it up with that, Paige Satter? Okay. There's
sounds lessons like a plan.
Thank you for sharing some of your lessons.
Thank you so much.
Today. Really, Paige. This is
awesome. This was fun. I'm glad. I always like chatting with you guys.
Yeah. We'll do it some more.
And a pleasure.
I'm here.
Bye, everybody.
Right.
Much love.
See you later.
Shit, did I hit the record button? No, I'm just kidding. Bye.